Hello and welcome to this episode 1, season 2 of the Excaliburr podcast, hosted by me, Kyle Brooks. I believe that every man should live as if his father is no longer around, because one day he won't be. My relationship with my father was a very interesting one. He set the example of creating a better future for the family, as well as leaving a legacy. That meant that he wasn't around or wasn't present for a lot of our childhood and adolescence because he was busy working his ass off to provide for us. That does not mean that he did not make an impact in my life, which is the true job of a father. It's to make an impact in their child's life. My childhood is littered with instruction and lessons that I still use today. And he's part of the reason that I became a controls engineer. He left a legacy of being one of the best system engineers in South Africa. And why, after I had explored the job market, being a salesman, a bartender, and numerous other positions, I had joined his company and solo operation in 2010. At this stage, I was 22 years old, and I was more focused on going out partying with my mates and chasing after women than I was absorbing the knowledge that he was imparting to me. And all of these nuggets of gold were critical because a lot of people that would have killed to be in the same position that I was in. Cut to September 2011, I'd been working there for about a year. And we had been overwhelmed by the amount of projects that we had taken on. We were really stretching ourselves thin. But with that was the promise of an enormous payday looming. So my dad decided that he was going to take a break to remove us out of that situation for a while and just go away for a weekend to get a little R&R and some recreation with the family. So we embarked on a trip to the Breede River, which is probably about 2.5 hours away from where we were staying in Cape Town. And we had to take 2 vehicles because it was my mother, her sister, my brother, his girlfriend at the time, my father, and I. And on the way there, all I could think about was how pissed off I was that I was missing the weekend with my mates and the opportunity to go out on a date with this girl that I had pursuing for about 3 months. But in hindsight, looking back with the knowledge that I have now, I probably wouldn't have pursued that at all. Because if you're pursuing somebody for 3 months and it takes you that long to get a date, that usually means that you're an option. So we arrived at the house at about lunchtime. And I remember that the weather was absolutely stunning. It was a hot day with a crisp breeze blowing from where the river met the ocean. Everything about this entire scene was serene and beautiful. The first night we spent there drinking and celebrating with a home-cooked meal, and there was lots of laughter in the house. But that meant that the next day I was suffering from an enormous hangover. So I woke up at about 12 o'clock and stumbled outside, lied on the grass, was relaxing in the sun and just kind of taking a nap. At this stage, my dad being an avid fisherman, he was itching to go and do some fishing, which is the whole reason that he wanted to come on this trip. I remember him walking past me and asking if I wanted to join him. But by this time, the sun had done its job. I was very, very lethargic, and the booze was still being filtered out of my system from the night before. So I told him that I was going to pass on this trip, and I would probably catch up with him the next day. So 2 hours passed, and I found myself back in the house watching the escape box, the TV, while texting the girl that I had been pursuing. And my mother comes to me and she asked me to go and get my dad some lunch, time that there's lunch ready for him. At that stage, I believed that I was a boy that was masquerading as a man. So I reasoned with her and said that, he's going to be fine. He'll come in when he really wants to come in, and that we shouldn't bother him while he's fishing. See, my dad, he had the habits of fishing through the night. And 8 o'clock came, he hadn't been back. I told my mom, don't worry about it. He's going to be okay. 11 o'clock came, he's just being his normal self. At this stage, I think that I had begun to worry a little bit about him, but also I'd been kind of angry with the fact that he was being so selfish and had to come back home. So, it's just like normal, his normal everyday behavior. But this time it was different. This time when morning broke, he wasn't there. This time, it was the last time. That night, I lost my dad. I lost my knowledge bank, as well as my employer. I learned that I was ill-prepared to be a man, to be the man of the house. And that my coping mechanism was distraction and running away from my problems instead of facing them. I also learned that through that event, I can overcome almost anything. And I learned that if I trust myself and learn from mistakes, because they're going to happen, that you can either run from your mistakes or you can learn from them. So I used that knowledge and what I had acquired during that time to build a better future for myself. Because when it happened, it was such a shock to the system that I had to truly cope with not only being the cornerstone of my family, but also the now provider. And I was failing at that. I failed by running away to go get drunk with my mates and not be the person that my mom could depend on when she truly needed me. But during that time, and looking back on it now, I learned that you have the power to be able to change and to triumph over any tragedy in your life. That by focusing on the objectives that you truly have at the moment, you can overcome almost anything in life. That my father's life, I learned that you always have a choice. That you don't have to be defined by your circumstances. That through hard work and self-education, you can be anything that you aspire to be. Through his death, I learned that leaving a legacy for your bloodline is critical. That your mission as a father is to provide, to protect, and to prepare your children for life. But that means that you won't be present for the entire life of your child. So leave them with the knowledge that they are able to overcome and to conquer their fears, to be better than you, and also to take the time to put yourself first, because no one else is going to.